Hi, so we seem to be a little bit confused on things that we can respectfully disagree on and still be friends, so I decided to write down a couple. We can disagree on ice cream flavors. Personally, my favorite is Moose Tracks. If you like something different, we can go back and forth about it, that's fine. Sports teams, we can disagree, still be friends. Hot or iced coffee? Preferably my first cup of the day has to be hot. I do get into arguments about that often. The list goes on, but nowhere on this list is human rights. We cannot disagree about human rights. No one is illegal on stolen land. And I won't even respectfully debate it with you because I debate with people that I respect. And if you do not share that opinion, I don't respect you. I hope this is helpful.
People were really scratching their heads when Trump won. I had one friend in particular that texted me that night. She's a very liberal person. And she was like, I don't understand what's happening. And I wanted to be like, of course you don't understand what's happening. Remember when I tried to talk to you a couple weeks back about how I knew that Trump was going to win the election because I talked to conservatives and you cut all the conservatives in your life off so you don't know how they think? When you cut people off, they don't just disappear. You just lose the ability to understand them. And you're shocked when Trump wins. What's up? Welcome to Bree the Humannequin. I am Bree. So I've been helping out at my grandma's house recently, and my grandma is kind of a hoarder. One family member's approach is to just throw stuff away when she's not looking. They're like, she doesn't need all this stuff. She's not gonna miss it when it's gone. But I don't really like that approach. And I just feel like you undermine her own personal feelings by just throwing her stuff away. Like, her opinion doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter how much stuff gets thrown out if she's just gonna buy more stuff. I like pulling it out and showing it to her so she can actually see what she has and how much of it she has. And then I ask her about each and everything. What do you want to do with this? Can we donate this? Do you want to keep this? Where do you want to put this if you decide to keep this? Did you know you have 2 of these? And showing her each and everything and having a conversation about each and everything. It's very slow. Oh my God, stop texting me while I'm making a video. It's my fault. I gotta stop replying. But showing her each and everything is very slow. It's a very slow, deliberate process. The end goal is no longer, we gotta throw all this stuff away. But ultimately, the goal is getting her to recognize, I have too much stuff. And hopefully, and most likely, that'll result in a reduction of the amount of things she keeps in her space. While I think this other family member just wants to be like, look at all this stuff you have. And then expect her to be like, you know what? You're right. I am a hoarder. Throw all this shit out. That's not gonna happen. And I just think that that's how a lot of liberals see conservatives. I think they've had 1 or 2 conversations with them or a few conversations with them and they didn't immediately change their minds. And then they were like, you know what? Fuck it. Fuck them. They're ignorant. And similarly with my grandma, I've tried dozens of times with her where I have been like, Granny, you have too much stuff. You just got to get rid of some stuff. And she's been resistant to it every time because I'm not speaking to her in a language that she understands. To me, it's just stuff. You can get rid of it. But she's got an emotional connection to every single thing that she has. So I have to approach her in that same way and not expect miracles to happen after 1 or 2 conversations. And I think that the reality is people like just being able to dismiss people, being like, they're just a lost cause. I think people don't want to put in the work. I frequently talk about friendships and relationships on this channel, and I talk about how people just like to ghost in relationships and friendships, right? They don't want to hash it out with the other person. They just want to be like, you know what? I don't like how this person is making me feel, so I'm just going to cut them off, which I get, but it's not productive. You're not changing anybody's mind by just cutting them off. People were really scratching their heads when Trump won. I had one friend in particular that texted me that night. She's a very liberal person. And she was like, I don't understand what's happening. And I wanted to be like, of course you don't understand what's happening. Remember when I tried to talk to you a couple weeks back about how I knew that Trump was going to win the election because I talked to conservatives and you cut all the conservatives in your life off so you don't know how they think? But when we had tried to have the conversation before, she completely shut me down. Me, a liberal, a fellow liberal. And I kept telling her when we were talking, hey, same side, we're on the same side. I'm just trying to tell you, based on the conversations that I've had with Republicans and conservatives, I'm pretty sure he's gonna win. And she couldn't handle it. She shut down the conversation. She literally said to me, we have to stop talking about this because I'm getting upset. Which I understand. She is a Mexican American woman. She has family that are being clearly affected by policies and beliefs that the right is carrying out. But I'm like, you should definitely want to know why they're trying to kick immigrants out of the country or prevent immigrants from coming here in the first place. If she wants to fight these policies, she needs to understand why people support them. I would want to know so I could be like, hey, I'm an immigrant. Do you want to kick me out too? Especially with conservatives, they really need that personal touch. Maybe if they know somebody who's going through something, they can sympathize because it's not just something you only hear about in your echo chamber type of situation anymore. Now you know someone who's being directly affected by the policies that you're voting for. When you cut people off, they don't just disappear. You just lose the ability to understand them. And you're shocked when Trump wins. Believe it or not, I actually came from a very conservative family. I think most black families are actually pretty conservative. I think they just end up voting liberal. I was in college in the 2010s, in the early 2010s. When I got to college, I had a lot of queer friends, and I kind of popped in and out of the queer community at my college. My best friend was a gay man, so I was kind of always on the fringes. In the span of 3 to 6 months, I had 3 friends come out to me as non-binary. Now, at this time, it was not as established as a gender identity as it is now. And I wasn't a huge fan of it, if I'm being completely honest. I understood being a transgender woman or being a transgender man. I understood that gender and sex were separate, but I didn't understand if a person looks female and they are just wearing pants and a t-shirt, but they want to go by non-binary pronouns, non-gendered pronouns. I didn't understand why they didn't just go by she, her pronouns. There were a lot of very selfish motivations behind it. I was like, you're gonna make me have to remember a whole separate pronoun when you just look like a regular person. And I didn't want to have to do it. And I've pushed back on all the people who came out to me around that time. And they kind of had varying reactions. One person, you could tell they were disappointed, but they didn't really argue with me on it. Another person was very cool about it. They just treated it like it wasn't really a big deal. They were like, yeah, I'm non-binary now and I go by they, them pronouns. And even when I had my arguments for it, which I love discussing things. That's why I have this channel. I love talking about things. They would just educate me on stuff, but they would never get emotional about it. They were always very matter of fact. The third person was very emotional about it, and they did not like that I was not immediately on board. In fact, when this person came out to me, I said, at the end of the day, you're my friend. I'll call you whatever you want to be called. The day after they told me about it, I accidentally misgendered them in class. I think our professor was asking something about them where I had to refer to them, and I accidentally said she, her. I did not do this on purpose at all. They said, if you call me she again, we're not going to be friends. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm sorry. I've known you for 3 years as a woman. You're going to have to give me a bit of a grace period to adjust. And their approach was just so hostile to me. I didn't feel like they were being reasonable as to my lack of understanding. I felt like they couldn't see it from my perspective. I'm like, this is very new to me. And I just felt like they were not giving me enough grace. Not necessarily that they had to, but I just didn't feel like the way that they were going about it was very effective. Honestly, that negative experience that I had with that friend made me super antagonistic towards using the non-binary term because I was so frustrated with how that friend reacted that it made me even more resistant. That I was like, well, fuck it. I don't want to have to remember somebody's separate pronouns anyway, but now you're over here being antagonistic saying that we can't be friends because I fucked up on it one time the day after you told me. It took watching people on YouTube and seeing people explain it and doing my own research that was heavily motivated by the other non-binary people that I met, the people that were cool and understanding that I wasn't going to get their pronouns right away. And that's just what I try to give conservatives now. This is Hawk, by the way. He's one of my most charismatic, pet sitting. Oh, he's sitting there with my cat. That's so cute. So I don't want to be the person who shut me down. I want to be my chill friend who opened my mind and was willing to educate me. And I think if more of us approached conversations with conservatives this way, we'd get a lot further. Also, I think that cutting people off is an emotionally aggressive action to take. Being friendly and friends with somebody one day and then the next you just completely stop talking to them. This friend definitely did that to me while we were still in class with each other. It was so awkward. And I used to sit with them every day in class. When you're the person doing it, it feels self-protective. But to the other person who you're freezing out, it feels like a punishment. And what does punishment make you do? It makes you defensive. I think people think it makes you want to change and reevaluate yourself, but that's not how humans work. Humans are emotional, and I didn't like being punished for not understanding something fast enough. And I stayed ignorant about non-binary people for a long time, way longer than I should have. And it wasn't because the information wasn't available, because it was, but it was because I think either consciously or subconsciously, I associated the whole concept with this person who made me feel like shit. So yeah, that friendship did not last. And I'm not saying that my friend wasn't entitled to protect themselves, just like I'm not saying that liberals aren't entitled to protect themselves if they feel like conservatives are saying or doing things that are truly reprehensible to their beliefs. But I am saying that if the goal is to change minds, then punishment does not work. It makes people dig their heels in and retreat to their echo chambers where everybody can tell them that they're right and that you're crazy for defending whatever thing that they already don't want to change their mind on. So, how do I have these conversations without losing my mind? I use something called dialectics. It is the idea that the truth isn't about one side being right or wrong. It's about finding what's true in both perspectives. It's not about winning the argument. It's about sharing understanding. Remember the whole nature versus nurture debate? For years, scientists argued, is it your genes or your environment that makes you who you are? And we look at it now and we're like, well, obviously it's both. So both sides were right to a certain extent. That is dialectics, or at least what my base knowledge of dialectics is. I learned a lot of what I know about dialectics from Dr. Anna on her lovely YouTube channel. She is a wonderful person and explained things in a way that really helped me understand what it was. I definitely think you should check out her video on dialectics. I'm going to include it in the description below. The whole point about dialectics is instead of trying to win the argument, you're trying to figure out where the truth actually lies, even if it means that you're partially wrong. So when I'm talking to a conservative friend, well, my goal isn't to prove them wrong. It's to understand where they're coming from and try to find the places where we actually agree. Because there's always some common ground, even if it's buried under a lot of disagreement. For example, I was talking to a conservative friend about immigration. In fact, this started with, we were talking about things that were most important to us in terms of policies. And I don't want to get too into politics in this video and bog it all down because this video is mostly about communication. But I was basically saying, what's most important to me is human rights and making sure that everybody has access to healthcare and making sure that children have access to education and things like that. And this person said the most important thing to them was immigration and securing the border. And instead of going, you're a racist, you hate immigrants, and I'm going to stop talking to you forever, I asked them some questions. I was like, why do you think we need stricter borders? And they were like, because I'm worried about jobs and safety in my community. And I was like, okay, so we both agree that people deserve to feel safe and economically secure. That's a common ground. We just disagree on whether or not immigrants are actually a threat to those things. But we do agree on the underlying value, the core, the pit of the social avocado, if you will. And when you approach it from that way, where you're looking for where you agree instead of just attacking a person where you disagree, people will actually listen to you, and you'll get a lot further in those conversations that way, because you're not just making them defensive. You're actually having a conversation, not a fight. Secondly, I also check my own fallacies. Logical fallacies are basically arguments with faulty reasoning, and we all use them when we're not careful, especially when we're emotional or when we want to be right. So I'm constantly asking myself, am I straw manning? Which is, am I making their argument sound stupider than it actually is? Like a conservative friend might say, I think we need stronger border security. And my gut reaction is to be like, oh, so you hate immigrants. But that's not what they actually said, is it? That's me turning their argument into something that's easier to attack. Because hating defenseless people is objectively wrong, right? Hating people who are leaving terrible circumstances so that they can live a better, safer life is wrong. So then I have to force myself to restate their actual position. You're concerned about border security. Tell me why that's important to you. And then we can have a real conversation instead of me arguing against something they never said. Or am I engaging in ad hominem, where I'm attacking the person instead of their idea? Of course you think that. You grew up privileged. You don't know anything about blah, blah, blah. Or of course you think that. You're from a small town. You don't know shit. Even if they are privileged, or even if they are from a small town, that doesn't just automatically make them wrong. I have to make sure that I'm addressing what they're saying, not their background or their personality. Not to say that those things never play a role, right? A pattern can definitely be established and those things definitely have their place. But when you're trying to have discussions with people and you're trying to change minds, that's just not going to work out so well. You know, there are lots of other logical fallacies that you can definitely learn about. I don't have a specific person to link it to. I'll try to see if I can link something below. I'm sure the very awesome and intelligent Dr. Anna has some stuff on her page about it. But all that is to say, I try to hold myself to the same standard that I want from them. Because if I'm being what Dr. Anna calls intellectually lazy or intellectually dishonest, why should they listen to me? Even with those things being said, I still have my personal boundaries. I can talk to somebody who doesn't understand trans people, but I might have a line with a person is actively campaigning to harm them. Or I'll engage with a conservative person who supports Donald Trump or his policies, but that's different from being friends with a MAGA person who stormed the Capitol. Those are different types of people. And that's the other thing too. Not all conservatives should be lumped together. There is a spectrum for every political affiliation or personal affiliation. There's a spectrum. There's definitely a spectrum for liberals as well. Personally, I am a progressive liberal, so lumping in every single conservative, even every single Trump supporter with the stormtroopers, you know, like that's not fair. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Why should the burden be on us? Why do we have to be patient with them when they're not patient with us? And you're right, you don't have to. I'm not an immigrant, I'm not trans, and I do have the privilege of being able to have these conversations without my existence being threatened. So I'm not telling trans people that they need to be friends with people who don't respect them. You know, I'm not trying to tell immigrants that they need to understand people who want to deport them. I'm saying what I choose to do, and I choose engagement over isolation because I think it's more effective, which is ultimately what I care about. And I also get that some of you have tried. You've had these conversations, they didn't work, and you're tired. And maybe it's time for you to walk away, and that's valid. But I also think that a lot of us haven't really tried. We've had one conversation where it didn't go well. We immediately judged that other person, and we threw our hands up. Very similar to how my friend who came out to me as non-binary told me the very next day, if you can't get my pronouns right, we aren't going to be friends anymore. I feel like it doesn't take into consideration the very human element to all of this. And what I think when we stop talking to conservatives, and if you're a conservative watching this, which I would be very surprised if you made it this far into the video, we lose the ability to understand our country. We live in echo chambers. And we're shocked when Trump wins. And we didn't see it coming because how could we? We stopped listening. We lose opportunities to change minds because we cut people off. They don't change. They just find other people who agree with them. So there's this episode of Teen Titans where Starfire saves Valyor, that guy who was a bigot and called her truck. Ooh, it's such an icky word to say out loud, right?
I don't need any help from a stupid truck.
But he's calling her a slur. He's being a dick to her, talking down to her. And there comes a point where he needs her help and she saves him.
Take my hand!
Keep your filthy hands off me, truck!
And it wasn't because he deserved it, but she wanted to be a good person. Shady Durags did an excellent video, gonna link him below as well, did an excellent video talking about this entire episode and makes a really good point at about 13 or 14 minutes in, where he says he was disappointed in this particular aspect of the episode. This is after Starfire has saved him and he is trying to give her a compliment, and guess what he says?
You must be one of the good ones.
And the Titans are like,
I think it's time for you to go.
and Shady says that he didn't like this.
Personally, I think there is a way the Titans could have worded their disapproval to acknowledge that while Val is still not worth being friends with, he has at least made some progress. Instead, they act like his efforts to change are fruitless and that he is a lost cause. This results in Val digging deeper into his prejudice and simply lumping the humans with Tamaranians. You don't get rid of ideas by outcasting them. They just go to a different place.
So ultimately, I try to keep my conservative friends because I care about progression above all else. I really want to live in the ideal society, and we can't get there if we're cutting each other off. We're cutting off half the country and not able to understand what half the country is going through or how they think or what they see or how they experience things or what matters to them, or saying that what matters to them doesn't actually matter. That doesn't work. Patience is what worked for me. I've seen it work on others and in my conversations with others, treating other people like they're fellow humans. A lot of people who have different values than us is because they've grown up in a different society. They've grown up in a different culture than us. I'm very interested to see what you guys' take on this is. Do you lean more left? Do you lean more right? Do you feel like you're somewhere in the middle? Do you feel like you fall outside of the spectrum somewhere else? Because, you know, we like to put labels on things and everybody thinks that things are binary or black and white. You know, as I said earlier in the video, there's definitely a spectrum going on there. But what do you think? Do you think that we should be more patient, or do you feel like it's better to just cut people off? There's nothing wrong with being the type of person who wants to detach themselves from people who have conservative values. If that's something that is more beneficial to your mental health, or that's something that you don't want to deal with, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The issue that I have is when people think that that is the only way to deal with people like that. Just like Shady Durags was saying, I don't like just labeling people as like a lost cause and then just throwing them in the trash bin and forgetting they exist. Because they definitely exist. They're showing up at the polls and they are voting. But I think that if you are emotionally available enough, and especially if you have the education on whatever topic you're talking about, chipping away bit by bit is important, super important. Once again, not looking to change anybody's minds overnight, but just having a conversation. It's not a sprint, it's definitely a marathon. And my ultimate goal is to try to get people to see that cutting people off is not the only way. It can be the right way for some people, but it is not the only right way. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Let me know how you feel about this topic in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Also, something that I've been wondering, if you're still here, is people in these YouTube videos have been using their microphones. They keep their microphones in the video, and I don't know why. I feel like, look, you can't even see half my body anymore. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old school. Back in the day, talking head videos, which is like what this one is, used to just be like, you know, like the person sitting and talking at you, and it was like you guys were having a conversation. But now everybody wants to look like a fucking podcaster, and it just looks so pretentious to me. Maybe that's why I don't want to do it as well. Anyway, he's like staring at me and it's making me feel uncomfortable. Maybe he wants to go outside. Anyways, that's all. That's the postscript. Bye.